RPA, which is something that we are really building up at eCapital. I think we feel strongly in the RPA capability, especially because can lend itself nicely to really any part of the business in any business. Today, Jake will be walking us through that. So Jake, the forum is yours.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a good break. I know it gave me some time to make sure my cat was okay, make sure she had her water and her food. Also got a refill of my coffee, so I'm ready to go. Today's presentation is going to be a bit of a slide deck, and then we're going to move into some demos, kind of show you the power of RPA and really why it's so exciting to work with. One of the things you'll notice really quickly is it's super visual. So you'll see my computer making movements faster than a human can. And once you see that, it kind of sparks your imagination of kind of what's next, what can I do? So I'm going to share my screen, kind of get into the presentation, and let's go. Awesome. So a little bit about today's agenda. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is kind of why automation is interesting and what problem is it really tackling. Then I'm going to go into an overview of what RPA actually is, a little bit about the industry overall, what makes Automation Anywhere special, do some demos, and end with a Q&A. But I do want to give a little bit about myself. So I am a lover of automation, technology, analytics, and everything, right? My goal in life is to help clients out to make them understand, hey, how can I better use these tools to make not only myself shine, but make my organization I work for better. I lead the RPA practice here for eCapital, but also do a bit of evangelism on the analytics side as a whole. Prior to joining eCap, I actually spent 4.5 years in the supply chain organization at Anheuser-Busch InBev. And while I was there, I was able to work on a lot of cool technology projects, even though I was in the supply chain area. One of them being a machine learning project of which I forecasted the demand out for all beer sales for our own distribution channels. I also had a lot of bot making there, helping them standardize and operationalize and automize all of their processes. I'm a huge traveler, foodie, pet owner, and I have a huge passion for education. If you ever want to get me to speak at an event, if you offer me a meal, I'm almost guaranteed to be there. Again, the important point for today's presentation is this is for you. On the second hand monitor I have to my right, I actually have the Q&A up, ready to answer any questions as soon as they come in. So if you look at the bottom of your chat bar in Zoom, you should see the Q&A button. At any point of time in my presentation, you can ask any question. It doesn't even have to be on RPA. If you want to know kind of my experience at AB and helping position machine learning as a really cool initiative that can drive value in the organization and want to hear a little bit more about that and kind of how I went championing kind of these more black boxy technologies to push them through at an executive level, I'm more than happy to talk about that too. Again, this is for you. I want you to get the most out of it. Hopefully you take away some really cool points and understand, what RPA is, why you should be excited about it, but also a little bit about eCap and kind of, what our journey here is today and kind of why we want to help you out. So a little question I always like to start off on when I give a presentation, right, is kind of to set the stage of why we're here today. So if there was a way to remove your least favorite hour of your workday and replace it with your most favorite, would you jump on the opportunity? I've asked this question in almost every presentation I've given, and I have yet to find someone who says no. Everyone wants to remove that mundane hour from their workday and essentially replace it with what they enjoy most, right? The strategic, the value add, the personal connections, and managing the relationships internally to make your organization grow and feel more powerful. So what are the common industry challenges that we're facing? So the way I like to sum it up is what I call the 3 C's. So we all face some of these same challenges, and they're all related to trying to fit ourselves within an enterprise and understanding, how can we make a move and make the right decisions to make sure we're going on the right path. So the first problem we see is a consistency issue, right? Let's face it, everyone makes mistakes, right? There's no person that's perfect. Even today we've seen how technology can get in the way, and all of a sudden we have to pivot on the fly to make sure everything's working right. These mistakes happen, out of control, because of the nature of technology and the nature of, us being human. These errors, though, sometimes cause large downstream costs. And these large downstream costs, even from a simple, let's say, a keystroke error, can be really costly to an organization. But one of the reasons why we have the consistency problem is we keep adding to the complexity of the applications that we work with day to day. right? So hopefully everyone kind of has seen this in the last 5, 10 years, where before everything was Excel based, and we all kind of sat doing our Excel gymnastics to make sure we got our numbers to line up and make sure we're going in the right direction. But now we keep adding more and more applications. And by adding more and more applications, we not only need longer trainings to make everyone successful, but we also drive this consistency issue because we have to remember how everything works. And lastly, once you add consistency and complexity challenges into the organization, you start to see a cultural issue, right? People start getting disengaged with their work. They start kind of really wanting to just take a step back from what they're doing and figure out, hey, how can I find a job that is satisfying to me, right? Something that I'm not driving home these mundane processes day in and day out just to make sure the organization is afloat. This cultural problem is actually something that kind of hits home really closely to me. At AB, in my last role, I was managing a team of forecasters and inventory planners. And what I saw almost immediately is the amount of mundane work that they had to do kind of drove this almost insanity to the point where they would come in during the day and just wait for the end of the day to come, right? Spend as much time at the water cooler as they can, have as many offhand conversations as they can, so they don't have to focus on the mundane. I knew I needed to make a change, and that's kind of why I initiated the machine learning project and kind of paired it up with automation to kind of free their days up so they didn't have to focus on, keying in forecasts, but instead can focus on, communicating with sales, doing activities they actually wanted to do that not only help them grow as a person, but help the organization grow. So how do these things interact, right? Hopefully from at least the initial points that I'm making, you see that there is a connection between the three. And at the center of everything, at least the way I like to view it, is our employees' well-being. And with this consistency and complexity and culture mix, they kind of all go hand in hand, affecting your employees' well-being. If you drive the consistency up, drive the complexity down, and form a good culture, everyone's happy. But if the consistency problems kind of keep coming up, complexity keeps rising, and then you have the burnout issue, employees' well-being as a whole kind of goes down. And you kind of see this burnout rate, this turnover percentage go up, and everyone kind of disengage with the overall enterprise and the goals of the organization. So we face many tests, right? And one of the things people ask me all the time is, hey, how do I map out the tests that I have to figure out what's automatable and what's not? And the way we like to do it is to map it out based on the difficulty of the task and how frequent we do it. So when you start doing this activity, we see things like 3-year planning, strategy, business development, expectation management, right? These are things that are high difficulty and we don't have to do every day. But things like data set comparison, account balancing, emailing, data entry, these are activities we do all the time in our day-to-day operations just to make sure everything's keeping afloat. Those things on the right-hand side, these high frequency tasks that are somewhat low in difficulty, is what I like to call the automation sweet spot. These are the things we like to tackle, right? These are the things that are super automatable and really end up driving down your employee engagement. So at the end of the day, I like to phrase an automation as a people-first initiative, right? We like to think of automation as a way to strip away the mundane and empower you and your team to be the best versions of themselves. Of course, there's added benefits, right? One of the biggest benefits of automation is the cost reduction and the error reductions that you see. But at the end of the day, the reason you should be excited about the technology is not because of the cost reduction. It's because of the way it can change your organization and change your employees to how they view their job and how they view success in their role today. So I do see a question come up already, and it says, hey, can RPA help navigate a website so I can quickly and accurately get what I'm looking for? To answer this question, absolutely. And you'll actually see that in one of the demos today. We will be parsing information from a popular subreddit in the news today and kind of go over, hey, how are some of those hedge funds making the best bets to where the market is moving? You'll see it live. Again, a lot of RPA projects start with a business problem, right? What are you trying to solve? But at the end of the day, once you start playing around with the technology and because of how easy it is to use, you end up doing personal projects on the side when you're home. And that's kind of why I even started getting into this industry to begin with, right? I started as a hobbyist, right? I used to, at middle school, run bots to make me extra money by doing, mundane activities on the web. And that passion and that hobby activity, I actually formed into a career by noticing that the need of this type of activity at almost all organizations was there. So with that being said, I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. Just make sure there's no other questions on kind of why you should be excited about automation. Awesome. So then I'm going to start by talking about what is RPA as a whole. So to me, and I like to do this every presentation too, because one thing that I noticed in the analytics world today is that we like to put these buzz terms down almost everything. So a lot of articles you may read in the paper today will write the word AI and machine learning and RPA every other word, and to the point of where the definition of what those things actually are and what the solution is kind of gets fuzzy, right? We keep hearing different things. We don't know which is the truth, right? So to us at eCapital, when I talk RPA, I'm talking about the software itself, which integrates into business environments and simulates employee actions. And that last part is key, right? It's simulating employee actions. And for that reason, we like to think of these bots as almost like your digital workers or your sidekicks, right? They're here for you and pretty much act just as an employee would, except without an HR department to back it up. Some of the capabilities, and again, this is stuff we'll see in the demo later, data entry, following rule-based procedures, doing data extraction, validating data between different sources, different ERP systems, all as possible. Creating reports, super popular in the finance industry to make sure we're pulling the right information in order to cascading it to the right people. And lastly, emailing. Almost every activity we do today ends in an email, right? So having the ability to email out at mass, different reports or different statuses is really helpful in an RPA environment. So I want to go over one example, right? Kind of a large process that we may see, in our day-to-day operations, and this is a quote-to-cash process, right? So your customer makes an order, and we kind of get that order in Salesforce, right? We then have to read the PDF that comes with it, maybe push it for employee validation, put it into a Dropbox or a box or a cloud storage system, go through DocuSign to make sure it's ordered, then send the purchase order, follow an app, do another app, follow Excel, and it goes on and on and on. And during this process, there is human intervention to make sure everything is flowing together. And when you start looking at how long it takes to actually finish a quote-to-cash process, it just adds up so quick. And the reason it adds up is because every step along the way is either being validated by a human or being done by a human to get it done. So when you look at a process like this, right, taking an invoice from a customer and actually getting them the product, it can take a month, right? This takes a long time, right? At the industries today across the globe, that what they're trying to do is drive down the time it takes to do activities, right? And when we see something like this that takes so long to do something that seems pretty simplistic from the end of the day, just making sure we have the order and making sure we're delivering the order, it's almost astonishing how long it actually takes. So when you start to do it with automation and make these drives to make it a completely automated process, you see that time go down immediately, even if there is human validation in it, because every step between it just goes so much quicker. So what used to take 30 days ends up taking 5, right? That's huge. So not only are you seeing a complexity drive down, not only are you seeing a consistency great benefit, but you're seeing this drive down of how long it takes to actually complete the process. Any questions here? Again, super high level, but again, the thing to take away from this is that every process you look at the end of the day, it's going to drive if you use RPA to help automate it, it's going to take a lot less time than it would if humans were doing it. Awesome, no questions? I'll continue. So if you're going to take one thing away from my presentation today, and I seriously mean this, the one thing you should take away is this. As long as a process can be mapped, I promise you it can be automated. This is huge, right? Even the most complicated business processes that are out there, right? We look at it and there is a way to decomplex it and to drive down what component parts make it up, right? What drives the process? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? What is the end result? How do we track success? Once you start getting into this mindset of process first driven RPA, what you end up noticing is that almost every process we do, there is automation potential. But I like to help out, right? Give some examples of where we see it across every industry, right? So the general side, this is things that are applicable almost everywhere, right? Data entry, emailing, data validation, report generation, formatting documents. We see this in almost every facet of the organization. If you tell me you don't have to email someone every day, I'll probably call you a liar, although maybe there is a job out there that doesn't require emailing. From a finance perspective, claims management, the two most popular just because of how manual it is today is accounts receivable and accounts payable. The procurement process and managing your orders, all very popular activities that have seen really good gains from an RPA perspective. Operations, this is stuff that hits closest home to me, having worked in operations for so many years. At the time I left AD, we had over 130 bots running to manage the supply chain. And that all started with one bot, right? It's that excitement you get, right? You start with one and then all of a sudden it's automated a process. You're like, yeah, I need to do more. Inventory control, shipment execution, shipment consolidation, forecasting, operations monitoring, all of these things fit really well in the automation pathways we create. IT is also super popular. Resource management, doing the data validation, managing files from location A to location B, and monitoring our applications are all really great things to look for automation. And kind of what I say is the hidden gem within the bunch is the HR department. A lot of people think that the HR department is the last to innovate, but I can tell you with RPA, it's not. There's so much opportunity within HR for automation, especially when you look at the recruiting and the training and the payroll activities that we do from day to day. Does anyone have any questions on any specific examples? I don't know, Andrew, if you want to add anything in here of some of the more popular use cases that you've seen in the industry, not only from an eCapital perspective, but from the other channel partners you're working with.
Yeah, no, and Jake, by the way you're doing, I appreciate the way you're explaining this on a level everybody can associate with. Sometimes as vendors, we get too caught up in terminology and buzzwords and acronyms. I've seen things like onboarding, which goes across a lot of this, whether it's onboarding clients, HR, onboarding new employees. We certainly see a lot of that. Just generally in the finance, accounting, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Again, as I had stated earlier today, it's such a horizontal solution. It covers so many of these various areas that you're talking about.
Yeah, and what's really cool about it, I don't know, Andrew, if you've seen this too, is that once you go, we usually start at one of these facets of the organization. Like let's say I start with finance. What happens is the finance department gets so excited about their bots that almost immediately they show it off to the operations side or the IT side, and the excitement just grows from there, right? So it isn't the case where we have to, individually go to each of these departments to show success. When the first bot is there, and again, you're going to see this in the demo because of how visual it is, the excitement is already in the organization. The executive buy-in from an RPA perspective, right, having people understand the technology and understand why it's powerful is actually quite simple, right? You show the bot, you show it work, you see that it's automated, you see that it's doing it perfectly every time, and the excitement is automatically there. I don't know if, Andrew, if you've seen other things or other success stories with kind of broadening the spectrum of things we tackle with RPA.
Yeah, it's once you get in and maybe do a proof of concept and have a process or two and show success, it's amazing how it spreads throughout the organization.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never seen it not spread, and that's one of the reasons I love it, right? Because you get to see this excitement from your organization right away. You see how, again, this is because what you're doing at the end of the day is freeing up your manpower to do things they want to do. When they see that liberation right away from RPA projects that you push out, it's amazing, right? Like there's no greater enjoyment that you see your employee who's been burnt out for the last couple of months have a sigh of relief that his least favorite thing is now gone. So with that being said, let's talk overall kind of reasons for excitement, right? There's not just the employee morale and the cost savings, but again, the first thing, and I'm going to say this every time when you talk with me or you had me speak, I always talk employee morale first. I think this is the most important thing. I think making sure your employees are happy and are doing what they want to do kind of gets them to do that extra discretionary effort to make your company successful in their end goals. The second thing is productivity, right? You're going to see this firsthand. RPA processes run at 10, 100, 200 times faster than a human can, right? It just depends on what the process is that you're automating. Reliability, right? Not only are these going to follow your map or your process, diagram that you create every time, they're never going to have a sick day, right? There's no taking time off, there's no vacations, there's no dog sicknesses, there's no nothing, right? They're here to work for you. One of the things I called out, I guess, last year was how had every company had RPA in place, the COVID initial impact would have been a lot less, right? Imagine, a year ago, that every activity you were doing was automated, right? All these mundane things that you had to bring home and do while you were dealing with the onset of COVID and managing distance learning and everything was being handled by a bot. Just imagine how your life would have been different, right? You would have been able to care for your kids better, make sure everyone was healthy, make sure that the organizational goals that maybe were pushed to the side were being put back to the forefront because everything was automated, right? And that's one of the best things about RPA, right? It creates this, not only this enterprise of solutions that you don't have to worry about, but it creates a safety net, right? The next time that COVID happens, you know it won't be affecting your organization because you have the bots running in the background to make sure everything is successful. Again, that's kind of why, if you look at the trends for RPA, it's been accelerated with COVID. I think more and more people are realizing that, hey, RPA is not just there to be a productive system. It's there for a safety net, it's there for insurance, and it's there for a morale boost. Other reasons, right? Consistency. It's going to follow your process 100% of the time, every time. It's not invasive, right? This is really cool too, especially if you've had experience with RPA platforms way in the past, right? These things are made to integrate within almost every application, right? The one thing we're going to talk about later is the universal recorder that Automation Neighbor provides and its ability to interact with almost all applications. That's great, because what it leads to is, your developer or your person making your RPA bots at the end of the day, they don't need to know the nitty-gritty of every application out there. The systems are there to help integrate within everything so that you don't have to do it yourself. Super compliant, right? All of these platforms that we kind of showcase are SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant. They pass every ring of security that you need, right? And this is because if you think about it, like these bots are deployed almost across every organization in every facet of every company out there, right? So there are large, healthcare companies using RPA bots to help facilitate their processes. There are huge banks doing the same thing, right? And with all those different players in the market who are using this tool, you see the compliance necessities already being taken care of on the onset. It's super low technical barrier. Again, this is not what it used to be. It used to be a lot harder to do this. I know firsthand from building bots without any RPA tools out there, it's become a lot easier, right? You don't need a PhD in computer science to build bots anymore. There are tons of citizens developers out there who have no experience in coding, who are some of the best bot developers I've ever met, right? It helps to know coding, but it's definitely not a necessity. And lastly, they're accurate, right? You don't have to worry about making errors or someone getting tired or having a keystroke error. They're going to follow your process every time and make sure it's correct. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Andrew, if you want to add anything into here too. This is how I see it. But again, there are so many more benefits. We can have like an offhand conversation and all of a sudden you're like, I have another idea for a benefit, and it's usually true.
Yeah, the one thing I would emphasize, you point out non-invasive. Some clients get a little worried that, the old rip and replace type activity will happen, but that's not the case here. We work with whatever systems, whatever environment, whatever infrastructure you have. That's not a concern, and we're not replacing that.
So I have another question that came through. So what are your thoughts about context? In other words, if I'm a manager, I consume information one way, but if an individual contributor, I might need the information done or presented in a different way. Yeah, totally true, right? But what's nice about RPA is that you can create those different pathways for those different consumers, right? So you can have let's say a switch case where, if the person that we're sending it to is a manager, they'll get this information. If they are an analyst, they get this information. If they get an executive there, they get this information. And because of the flexibility of the tool and kind of the pre-built logic controllers that help manage that stream already there, you can pretty much disseminate the information that you want in any way possible, right? If you can create how you want to do it, the bot, I promise you, can do it that way. Okay, so now everyone should have a bit about why we have RPA and what's the exciting part about it and what it is, right? So we're going to talk about the industry now, kind of why or who out there are using these technologies to help grow their business, right? Kind of give you a sense of that you're not the only one looking into this, that you're not in a boat all by yourself, right? It's going to be heavily used across industry. So when you look at the industries that use it, right, almost every industry out there is at least 50% have at least one bot, right? Public sector is the one that always kind of falls behind because of all the governmental regulations around it and making sure the security is really airtight. But manufacturing, right, 90% of organizations have already implemented a bot, right? Media and publishing, same thing. Energy, same thing. Banking and finance, same thing. And we've seen this only grow, right? So this study was done in 2019. I guarantee if it was done again today, these numbers would be higher. There is no industry that I know where there has been a sinking of RPA interest. It has only grown. And about what functions they're using, again, across the board. Billing and payments, some of the most popular, right? Customer service, data analysis, kind of the things that fall in that general area. Human resources, again, you can even see it here. A lot of plan development to build around that kind of that facet of the organization, just because of how many things are super repeatable and super high transaction. So one thing I wanted to do today, not only go over the industry, is kind of give some perspective of what I think is in store, right? So this is no way the overall view of everyone out there in the market of who works in RPA. But these are some of the things that I think are going to be super important, and I try to put in things that I think some people wouldn't think of, right? So the first thing, and hopefully if you're in the RPA industry, you've heard this already, is the idea of intelligent automation, right? So right now, people like to think of RPA as it can do one process, but it's not thinking. This ideology, right? This idea that we're thinking that bots are going to follow this structure and that's all they're going to do is changing rapidly. More and more, we are seeing people embrace machine learning and other advanced techniques, or AI, to bridge some of the processes that they run in their RPA streams, right? And one of these examples we'll showcase later is the IQ bot that Automation Anywhere developed, right? That is a machine learning enabled OCR engine. It learns as you go how your documents are formatted and how we should read them in, right? That's amazing. Like these things did not exist before. It used to be very hard set of rules that we followed every time, that was it. But now, as the industry continues to develop, we're seeing, again, huge engagement within the ML community to kind of push ML into the automation streams themselves. The other thing is this idea for automation for everyone. I think, and as you'll see today, every RPA platform out there is becoming easier and easier to use, with more and more activities coming boilerplate out of the system, right? And this is cool. So they're developing these tools, right, to make the normal business user who maybe has a background in finance with no coding experience, and empower them to automate some of the things they do from their day in and day out, right? That's cool. Before, you needed that coding experience, and now we're making it as simple as possible so that anyone can use the technology. The third thing is integrations. I think more and more you will see in the next couple of years the big RPA platforms out there push for integrations within other applications. We've already seen Automation Anywhere do this with their AARI and its ability to integrate within Salesforce and within Excel to run your bots within Excel or within Salesforce, right? I think this trend is going to continue. Larger and larger of these enterprise or ERP systems, you're going to see built connectors to these RPA platforms to help automate, make that automation even easier. And the last thing that I think is going to happen, and I really do believe this, is the growth of communities. I think as people start playing with RPA more and more, what we're going to see is these user groups pop up almost everywhere of passionate developers who want to share their experiences, share their best tips, and share what makes RPA successful for them and why they're excited about the technology. Like I said, almost everyone who I've shown the RPA platform to ends up learning it and then doing it for fun on their free time. And that's because of how fun it is to actually make these bots and to see them to completion. So those communities are going to pop up, and when they do, my recommendation is join them, right? You're going to learn a lot more from other developers out there than from any webinar that you can come. So yes, we're going to say great information, but if you want even more information, join these communities, right? Find them and almost make it a passion of yours to follow what automation can do. I don't know if, Andrew, if you have any other insights into what you believe is coming in the near future.
I would, number 1 and 2 for sure, more machine learning and artificial intelligence spread across the entire platform, and then automation for everyone. As you mentioned, our latest product, RE, Automation Anywhere robotic interface. We see a bot on every desktop, especially in the front office and call centers. I can even mention publicly, Nike is one of our newest and biggest users of that tool, and I do see that a bot on every desktop.
Yeah, anyone from the audience have any experience in this too? Would love to know kind of, hey, what is your organization doing with RPA today? Have you seen any success? Kind of what drove the needle in your organization to make everyone excited about this technology? Okay, so one more industry thing before I go into kind of why Automation Anywhere is special. And one thing to note, again, from everyone who looks at like what's the total cost of ownership and how can I sell this within my organization? RPA is promising new development that promises an ROI of 30 to 200% within the first year. That's incredible, right? Like almost no technology out there can say that they can provide this much ROI this quickly. And again, this is across industry, across functions. The real power is working together with your business users to determine what process is causing the most human pain, what process is happening all the time, and figuring out how to automate it so that we can get to that solution where you don't have to do it any longer. So why automation anywhere? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the old way. So anyone out there, if they know what this is and they know what I'm doing here, kudos to you. Prior to having these tools out there, one of the ways you would interact with web pages is through an application called Selenium. And as you can see already, there's a lot of fancy terminology going on the page. What's an XPath, right? What's a driver? Why do I have to do all these funny things to get the information that I want? This is how it used to be, right? This is how we used to automate if you wanted to do it in that very codey fashion. You would bring up a Java compiler and build your automation using Java or C++ or C# or Python like here to kind of get to the result that you want. The problem with this is that it requires a certain skill set, right? You have to have a computer science background and have that ability to deep dive into web applications and desktop applications and understand how the inner workings work to automate even the simplest tasks. However, now with these RPA platforms such as Automation Anywhere, you see this, again, this almost workforce platform that helps drive this in a very fast and agile way, right? You have a bot store out there that helps bring in pre-made components that other people are using today to make sure that you're able to fast track some automation streams. You have an IQ bot, which is an intelligent OCR platform that helps disseminate some unstructured data from your documents to be able to find insights in places that people thought you couldn't find insights, right? You have the ability to have an analytics platform already on top of the bot. This, again, analysis on analysis idea that was brought up earlier is the same thing for RPA. We want to know what bots are running, how they're running, who's using them, what's the proposed ROI from them, right? This is all things that the platform does today. And lastly, having an easy bit orchestration platform and having an easy way to code it up all within a platform is super powerful. No more do you need this coding knowledge to be able to bring everything together. It's all in one platform. So what also makes Automation Anywhere successful is that they're taking it from a perspective of trying to create that automation for everyone, right? So what does a citizen developer want out there? They want an ease of use, they want to automate more, they want to focus on the tasks. What about the specialist, someone like me? I want to be able to build even more powerful bots. I want to know all of the applications and how it works. I want to collaborate with the business user and figure out what the best way is to automate the processes that we want to automate. And then the manager, right? They want someone who can scale this easily, that the tracking of all the bots is really easy to do, that it's not a added, weight on my back to make sure that my bots are running every day. So when you power and ease the use for all three levels, you kind of see this excitement, not only from the citizen developer or the RPA analyst out there, but from the people with the coding knowledge and the people managing it too. I don't know if Andrew, you want to put any extra insight here.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I think the main point is our platform appeals to, the various different types of, from the business user, citizen developer to the specialist and the RPA manager who's worried about the security. It covers it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the really cool things, and again, we're going to showcase this later, is this idea of a universal recorder, right? Something that can work within Windows, within web applications, within SAP and Oracle, within Citrix applications to run these automations without having to understand the underpinning of each technology. This is huge. Not all RPA platforms have a recorder. This is somewhat of a new development. It really does help facilitate quick growth within RPA and quick success. And again, just a little bit more of some of the advanced features that came out recently, right? This idea of a discovery bot, right? So all of RPA developers, including me, always believe that I would always have to tell people what they can automate, right? That's not true anymore. With Discovery Bot, you're able to kind of have the bot run alongside you, watch your processes, and then make recommendations of what you can automate next. That's huge, right? If you want to know what of my day can I automate, this is going to tell you that, right? You'll have this friendly sidekick right alongside you, watching you as you go, but not taking any personal information or anything like that, to make sure that if there's something you can automate right away, it's going to tell you. Right, this IQ bot ideology too, this idea of enhancing OCR capabilities, just like Appy would with machine learning, is huge. two other things, right? Having better automation features, right? Having, AI-driven recorders so that, in case an application wasn't playing nice, you have a backup to kind of use this more advanced computer vision to automate almost every application. And driving that bot insight approach and this analysis on analysis topic, right? Having the ability to view your ROI from each bot as it progresses, so that you can instantaneously tell, executive leadership what is the ROI of each of the bots we run. So with that being said, I'm going to position myself over to a demo. We're going to give 3 very different demos. The biggest thing to take away from the demos is not what I'm doing, but it's kind of how you can extend it in your organization, right? So the first example I'm going to show is how I enter data in a website. However, just because I chose one website doesn't mean it doesn't work on every other website. It works exactly the same way if you wanted to work within Salesforce or work within Oracle or work within a different web application. Some popular ones are, billing platforms. The way you go about building the bots and the way it goes about interacting is virtually the same throughout all web pages. So with that being said, I'm going to move over to the tool, log in very quickly. I promise you this also doesn't take this much time. I'll call it the same technology issues everyone else was having today. Awesome, we're in. So on the left-hand side, we can see kind of the overview of the application, right? We have a home page, we have a dashboard with insights around the bots we've won apparently 1,500 bot runs already on this application. All of your activities in progress, historical, all of your bots, and kind of every administration thing that you would need. I'm going to focus on this bot section over here, kind of go over how the tool works. So I have assets already made, and we're going to go through these processes. But the first thing I kind of want to showcase is how quick it is to actually start recording and automating a solution. So one thing I'll showcase very soon is interacting with this form here, right? This is a demo order entry form, right? Let's say I have an Excel book of information and I have captured their first name and last name, but I want to place it in this drop form to move the information to the right location. What I can do within Automation Anywhere is click this button here, and that starts the smart recorder and the ability for us to integrate with almost every application. So what's going to happen is you'll see on the right-hand side here, it's going to ask me what window I want to work with. And I'm going to choose that data entry form and hit the universal recorder here. Right now, the bot is actually recording my process. It is understanding what I'm doing and what steps I'm making in the website. So if you see me hover over the first name spot, you'll see this red box come up. And that's telling you that Automation Anywhere understands what that box is, what's the makeup of the box, how I found it on a web page, and knows that when I click within this box, it's going to take that action. So I'm going to write my name here, just write Jake. Okay, position it here, write my last name, make up a fake address. And hit finish. And what you'll see is if you navigate back to the application, is it's actually recorded this process for you and with pictures, right? So it tells you right now we're going to put our first name here, and in this box we're going to put the name Jake. In the second box, this last name, we're going to put my last name, right? And within 3 steps, we've already recorded a process and started to automate something. And it's that easy, right? It's this ability to do this recorder and to use these activities on the left-hand side with a drag and drop mentality that really drives home the platform, right? So if I wanted to open a browser, I would type in browser on the left-hand side, and right away I get all actions that go around browser activities. So let's say I wanted to open the browser up and go to that website. All I would do is take that website and drop it right here. I'm going to choose Chrome just because I prefer Chrome. And within 2 seconds, we're already ready to showcase us typing in this information. Okay, I'm not touching anything at this point. That quick. You saw it go type the information in 3 seconds, and that's what happens. It's amazing, right? Almost no interaction, no coding for me, no nothing, and already I'm starting my automation. And this is why it's exciting, because you put any business user in front of this, and you see their ability to create their own automation streams almost right away, with this easy to use user interface that drives home consistency and usability. You just get the excitement right away. So let me show you what it looks like when it's finished. Again, I apologize for the bit of a slowness on the system. There's probably a lot of people on my internet today. So here's a finalized data entry version. I have an Excel book here of all of different users who may need shirts or pants. Again, it doesn't really matter. The bigger idea is that almost every website works the same way. I'm going to close this for now. I'm going to hit run, and you're going to see it go through that same activity, but in mouse, right? Scaling it up to do the same type of activity for a large group of people, not just one. Again, I'm done. I'm not doing anything at this point. My hands are up. I sit back and relax. This is the life of an RPA developer. You watch these things go all the time. So I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger so you can see it go. I'll take a sip of water now. It's my perfect breaks. Again, the power of this is that almost all web pages work like this. So if you ever needed to do a activity where you're moving information into a web page or an application, it works the same way. So the first thing to take away is that almost every data entry task that you need to do in your day-to-day operations can be automated. And I can promise you that. I'll let it finish. I always like watching these things. I think they're fun. Again, even doing something like this, right? Having some information be put out into an order form doesn't take weeks or years to develop. It takes hours, right? We can automate these processes so quick that it drives the value home right away. And we're done. First bot's done. Second bot, ready to go. So I'm going to go back to my control room, go back to my bots. And the second thing I'm going to show is how do we interact with ERP systems. So Cognos came up earlier today, and they showed this amazing ability to burst reports. Now, I've worked with a lot of different ERP systems out there, and I know that not all technologies out there burst reports in the same way and do the functionality that we want. Sometimes you want to make custom Excel reports. Sometimes you want to make custom PowerPoints. How do I do that? So one of the things that we offer here at eCapital that's a really popular ERP system now is, or EPM solution is Adaptive Insights, right? Really lean system, really easy to implement, really easy to use, right? It has a lot of benefit by the usability and the functionality it provides in a web interface, right? One thing that we like to do is show how RPA can play nice with adaptive and burst reports out of the system and kind of customize them to the needs that you may want. So if I hit run up here, what we're going to see is now we're going to interact with the Adaptive Insights system and kind of burst some reports out to me. Again, I don't want to bug anyone else while I do these demos, so it all goes back to me at the end of the day. And again, a little bit about the architecture where you'll see it's notifying device and things like that. It's actually taking control of my computer, right? So at this point, it has control of my computer. It's working within everything. I'm not touching anything. So here it goes. It's going to start our second stream. Again, this is going to go into the report functionality within Adaptive Insights. It's going to figure out what report we need to run and run the report for us with no issue whatsoever. And I say that now when it runs into an issue, of course. One second, let me rerun this. This could be an internet lag issue. So my system is running a little bit slow. Yeah, I think it's running into a connectivity issue on my end. So I'm going to go to our third example, but I promise you it's worked this morning, of course. So the last example I wanted to show, and I'll pivot quickly to this, and I'll share a video of it actually running through the adaptive process where my internet is a little bit more connected so it doesn't run into that issue, is something I do for fun, right? So something that's been going on in the news lately is this craze around GameStop, right? Hopefully everyone has seen in the news the price of GameStop just go way up, right? Everyone's kind of wondering why this is happening, how it's happening, what's going on. And this is all done through a Reddit community called Wall Street Bets, right? There's a group of retail investors who are very passionate about driving the stock up, and it went up because of that. This got me interested. As a developer, the first thing I think of is how can I make extra money using RPA on the side? And one thing I like to do in the past, or one thing I did in the past, was create a bot that enters sweepstakes for me, right? So it would find sweepstakes, enter them in, and find the ability to enter them in without me touching them. So what would happen was I'd come home and I'd have boxes at my doorstep with winnings I had. That won me around $5,000 of prizes a month until I stopped doing it because I got too many boxes. One thing I thought would be interesting to do was to pull all of the posts from Wall Street Bets to understand what is the stock that they're talking about the most, right? What potential extra insight can I have with the use of an RPA bot playing alongside it to get the information we need? So I created this. This is a quick bot that actually scrapes the information from Reddit itself to give me an output of, hey, what is the information we're looking at? What is the most popular post? So I have an insight up to what's the next stock that could be hot. So I'm going to hit run up here. We're going to see it open Chrome and start its scraping activity. Yeah, I apologize for the internet slowdowns that I have. Again, if you've never seen it, I'm not saying that we are condoning the activity that happens on the subreddit, but this is something I did for fun because I wanted to have a leg up on the competition to understand kind of what the best posts were. So it's going to navigate the website, work through the website, get all the top posts. Again, I'm doing nothing at this point. Give me the information I need at the end of the day. So it's now scraping the information off of Reddit. Again, hopefully this shows you what I like to take away from this example is that you can use RPA in almost everything, right? So people think about kind of what can you do? And the answer is everything, right? So this is a personal activity I did for fun because I wanted to leg up on the stock market, right? You can do one for sweepstakes, you can do one at home. And once you start to play with these personal use cases is when you start to really identify with the software and understand kind of what the power is. Again, I haven't touched anything. But yeah, again, super powerful, super fun to watch. It's so totally visual. It gets me excited every time. I don't know if anyone has any questions on this or kind of how it works, but what you'll see when it's finished is going to actually send me an email with the information it kind of got back. Seems like my Outlook could have crashed too. Awesome. If I look at my email, you can see I got my Reddit data already scraped for me in an email sent when it was finished. In an easy to use Excel format. Again, super powerful. You can do this with almost every website. You can scrape, manipulate, get in any information that you want, play around. Again, the world is your oyster with RPA. You can see it scrape the top 200 links, like I said, with the links and the titles and the uploads too. So I'm going to pivot back to the presentation now. And I want to leave the last 9 minutes that we have here together to open it up to questions. What do you want to know? What do you want to know more? Again, I'm here for you. This presentation is for you. Please let me know any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jake. I think the options there are incredible and certainly endless. As we wait for some additional questions to filter in, maybe I have a couple that might help clarify some questions that I get a lot of times around RPA. When you think about identifying how many bots you need for an organization, how do you kind of make that decision when you decide, hey, I can start out with 1 bot, or maybe I need up to 6 bots? I mean, what are some of the criteria you look for when helping a company kind of decide some of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we look for is, what is the process that you're running? So each bot we eventually think of as a 24-hour time slot where we can run a process. So how many tasks can we fit within that 24 hours is the amount of bots that we need. However, if you want to parallelize a process, right, you want to run the same process twice as fast or 3 times as fast, what you will do is you actually add another bot to it. So you have multiple bots running the same process at the same time. So to sum it up, if you have a lot of small tasks running in sequence, you usually need less bots. When you want to parallelize a process and run, more the same activity more than one time, you end up having the need for extra bots.
Yeah,
can you embed a bot within another bot? 100%. Yeah, you do that all the time, right? So the ability to use other bots that you've already created within the ecosystem, so that a bot can call a script that says log into X application, because you're going to do that every time. Yeah, you modularize processes frequently to get that ability to kind of grow these pre-built structures or processes that you already have in place. What opportunities are you seeing within controllership functions? Tons, right? Managing cash flow statements, managing the day-to-day operations, understanding where the cash is, where it should be, doing financial reporting, mixing information from ERP systems to consolidate information at the end of the day, all if it's possible with RPA. Great question.
Jake, I know you touched on this a little bit, but what are the options for if you do need some human intervention along the way? Is there ways to incorporate kind of that fork in the road, kind of decision points where a human can be prompted for some things?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we love about these bots is the ability to either create an unattended bot. These are the things that run in the background that are fully automated, or an attended bot. So an attended bot is that human sidekick, right? This is something that's going to look for human validation. It's going to look for your response. It's going to look for the next email that you send out to make sure it's running the right process. We tend to see more back-end automation be done just because of the potential to scale it, but the ability to have that bot alongside you as you run your processes is totally there.
Hey, Jake, I just want to briefly jump in and point out that at the email address we've got displayed on screen, it looks like there's a slight typo there.
There is. I'll fix it before I send it off.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. It's eCapitalAdvisors.com. For anyone looking to reach out, we look forward to hearing from you.
Jake, maybe just a couple other questions around how you typically engage with new clients and also existing clients. If you ever get questions, saying, hey, we know we have some of this stuff documented, but we need help kind of defining what this business process is that something that you and your team can help with as well?
Oh, 100%. I think every good RPA project starts with a deep dive with the business to understand what the process is that we're automating, right? I think we have to start from there, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, if we don't know what we're automating and we don't know why we're automating it, why are we doing it in the first place? We need to understand the business process, why it's exciting, why we want to automate it, to actually start automating it itself. We offer free deep dive sessions, whiteboard sessions as well, to kind of go over your existing processes and say, hey, create a prioritization matrix out of it. What's important? What's high value? What is super automatable? What should we tackle first?
Yeah. And obviously I've seen your team in action. Just want to kind of reiterate that, because I think sometimes people think, well, our processes aren't already documented to perfection today. I don't know if RPA is for me then, right? And I think, we can definitely help out with that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're here for you, right? At the end of the day, we want you to be successful and understand what the technology can do. So you don't have to feel like you're on a boat by yourself. When you engage with us, the idea is that we're going to help out, make sure that, even if the process isn't documented well, we're going to sit with your subject matter experts who do it day in and day out and document it for you, right? At the end of the day, a result in RPA is not just about functioning, but it's you understanding what it's doing and what the process is too.
Final question from my side, Jake. What about the ROI question? Can you and your team help kind of calculate that ROI along the way and create some benchmarking and make sure that there's follow-up at the end of those projects?
Absolutely. So we love doing it too. One of the things we like to do, right? Some of the ROI is really simple to calculate, right? Like how many people are running this process today? How much time do we free up? What's the average cost of the hour? But some of the stuff that's really exciting to start to model out is like, what's the cost of an error? Like what's your error rate and how does it work? Once you start taking these, extra pieces into the equation, you start seeing the ROI go up and up. Great question.
Yeah. Well, Jake, I don't see anything else on the Q&A here for now, but really appreciate you taking the time today to walk us through this. And Andrew, thanks for taking the extra time today to hop back on and help, add some additional insight from an Automation Anywhere standpoint.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it, Jake, doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And again, my email is at the start of the deck too. You can find me on LinkedIn pretty easily. If you have any questions, want to talk, want to have a conversation about RPA, want to have a conversation about sweepstakes, right? I'm here. I do this job because I love interacting with clients and understanding what your hardships are and trying to solve them with you. So feel free to reach out. Anything and everything, you can contact me.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jake. Really appreciate it.
Stop sharing now.
So with that, I think we're kind of getting to the home stretch here, guys. So we do have one last kind of deep dive session of the day here with Cognos Analytics. And then we're going to close out with kind of a little trivia contest.